record, and you should all get a pop-up to let you know that we're recording. We're recording this so that we can add it to our website for those students who weren't able to join us today. So good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for Fridays with Financial Aid. This is our third Fridays with Financial Aid webinar. The other two are already posted to the Financial Aid website, and this one will be added in the next week or so. Welcome. My name is Carrie DeFonso. I am the Director of Undergraduate Financial Aid here at Yale. And we are here today to talk about reapplying for financial aid. As you know, students do need to reapply for financial aid each year. So my colleagues today, Taylor and Tony, will be walking us through the reapplication process, the forms that are required, and a little bit about what information is needed and from what populations of students. So thanks so much for joining us today. The Q&A is open, and we welcome you to add any questions that you may have to the Q&A. We've got some staff. You'll see Sarah, Alex, and Katie are also on this Zoom. They're all members of the staff here in Undergraduate Financial Aid. We'll be monitoring those Q&As. We'll be feeding them over to Tony and Taylor for Q&As at the end if we see any kind of frequently asked questions. But we invite you all to engage with us there. And again, thanks so much for coming. And let me just pass it on over to Tony. You start us off, right?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Carrie. I'm Tony Abelgard here in Undergraduate Financial Aid, and we're here today to talk about reapplying for financial aid. So do you have to reapply each year, and when do I have to complete the process? So all domestic students do need to reapply for financial aid each year. So you would need to complete the FAFSA, you would need to complete the CSS profile, and then upload your parent tax return documents and schedules and W-2s if applicable. If you also have a business or any businesses that might be listed on a Schedule E or not on a Schedule E, you would need to also submit the business tax return. The same holds true for a student. They would submit their tax return if they filed a tax return, and if they did not file a tax return, they would submit their student non-filer form. So the requirements may differ depending on your situation, which basically means that if you're a domestic student, your requirements would be different than maybe from a divorced family or a QuestBridge match scholar or an international student. Our application deadline is April 1st to guaranteed an aid decision by the July 1st fall term bill. The April 1st is a priority deadline for the continuing students. So as I said, it's a guarantee as an aid decision by July 1st fall term bill. However, keep in mind, even though you may have submitted all the required documents, keep checking your financial aid overview on Yale Hub. We may update for additional missing documents. There could be times where everything looks complete, and then when we start to read the file, we have, perhaps a missing W-2 for an example. So just always keep reviewing the financial aid overview on Yale Hub, and also when we send you emails, please read them. They're usually indicating that we're missing something that we need. If your requirements are not received by the April 1st deadline, you are not penalized in any way. Just keep moving forward to complete them. The later all of the requirements are done, though, keep in mind that you will receive your financial aid award letter offer later as well. Lateness does not affect your need-based eligibility. However, depending on how late it is and how long the bill is not paid, you may incur late fees. So what forms do I need to complete? So here's a chart that we made, and the heading is like the types of a domestic student, a QuestBridge match student, and an international student. So I'll start with like the domestic student. So if you're a domestic student, do you need to complete the FAFSA? Yes, please do. The CSS profile, yes, along with a parent tax return and W-2s, and the same with a student tax return as well and W-2s. Some families are self-employed, so they may not have a W-2, so you would not be required to submit a W-2. If you are a QuestBridge match student, you only have to complete the FAFSA and you do not have to do the other documents. And for an international, you do not need to reapply. So for the next slide, when completing the FAFSA should be available by the Department of Education on or before December 1st, as I had read on their website. It is really important for you to please authorize consent to directly have your tax return information transferred from the IRS to the FAFSA. That keeps it really clean and less likely to have errors, which then we may need to ask for more documents as a result of that. The FAFSA is required for all the domestic students, including the QuestBridge match scholars. The FAFSA is also required if you plan to take a federal student loan out. So the free application for the federal student aid is used to determine whether someone's eligible for federal aid, such as the student loans, the Pell Grants, the federal work study, and the state funding. So, if you have a chance to complete some of these requirements for the CSS profile portion, during break or downtime, you can start that process and then move on to the FAFSA when it opens up in early December. So the CSS profile, it's available now. It's open and available now, and this continuing students can complete. It's a lighter version of the CSS profile than the first year. So it'll move a little more quickly and not have as many questions to answer. We do want to point out on this webinar that the household size, if you could please, be careful, read the instructions and to accurately report all the members of your household. For an example, entering a sibling entering college, or for another example, just including your parents, sometimes they're forgotten. So please, be careful in trying to be accurate in reporting your household. The CSS profile also has a special circumstances box that you can, in that area, explain anything that you want to provide for us so we can sort of get a better picture of your financial, and family household. So please be specific as possible, especially if it's regarding expenses. And also you can even write it out on a document, like on a letter or something, and upload it through iDoc with the other documents. So now with the tax documents, all the tax documents have to be submitted through iDoc. Do not submit them directly to the Yale, to our office unless we specifically instruct you to do so. The 2023 parent tax returns get uploaded through iDoc. As far as a custodial household, whether it's sophomore, junior, senior year, we only need the custodial household information. And please include all of the schedules and all of the forms when you're submitting your tax documents. We kind of, all we need is the federal IRS. We don't need the state tax return. And also, it's better to not pick and choose which pages you are going to submit, because oftentimes it will then make your file incomplete, and that's when we'll have to ask for more information. So basically just send in your full federal IRS tax return. So if the family owns a business, let's say there's businesses on a Schedule E, you would also need to submit the business tax returns. And if there's K1s, and even if there's a business that you run that's not listed on the Schedule E, such as like an 1120, please submit that as well, all through iDoc. For the parent 2023 W-2s, again, it's just the custodial household only. And keep this in mind, this might be really helpful when you're preparing your documents to submit, is that the W-2s that you would submit, they need to equal or match what is reported on line A of a tax return. So let's just say both your parents are income earners and you submit a W-2 and it satisfies the requirement, but then when we read the file, we only received one parent's W-2. Well, then your file will become incomplete again. And that's why we like to ask you to please check your, financial aid requirements on Yale Hub often to make sure nothing's become incomplete. Um, and then if the student filed a tax return, we would need everything as well. Or if they did not, then they can submit the student non-tax filer form. So now I hand this off to my colleague, Taylor.
Thanks, Tony. My name is Taylor Constam. I am the financial aid coordinator at the Undergraduate Financial Aid office at Yale. I'm going to be talking to you folks about how you'll know your application for financial aid is complete. So a checklist is going to open up for students in Yale Hub sometime in January so that you can track what our office has received. This checklist is different from the checklist in your iDoc, and it's really important to continue to monitor your checklist in Yale Hub as additional information might be requested of you. Like Tony said, if there are certain schedules or other documents that we need, it will go into your Yale Hub checklist. So definitely continue to monitor that. When you upload items to iDoc, please note that it can take about 3 to 5 business days for our office to receive and process that information that's uploaded to iDoc. If you're checking your checklist regularly, your Yale Hub checklist, like you should be, and you notice something missing, that you're sure you uploaded, you're sure we are supposed to have gotten it, contact our office. We're happy to do a deep dive into what you submitted and make any adjustments necessary. Or if we need to have you uploaded again, we can tell you that as well. Just make sure to monitor your checklist and call us if you have any questions. As you are entering your recess in for Thanksgiving, for winter break. Now is a really great time before the craziness of spring term begins, to start on your CSS profile, which is currently available, like Tony said. And in the FAFSA will again, hopefully, open sometime in December. Now is a really great time to get started on those things. So you make sure that everything's in time for that April 1st priority deadline. Once the checklist opens, our office will be sending reminders to those students who have missing materials on every 15 days, which might sound like overkill, but we want to make sure that you get your information in so we can make sure that you get your financial aid offer before the July 1st fall bill. Let's see. If you have any questions, like I said, about what needs to be submitted, contact our office, email, phone call. You can make a scheduled appointment with your personal financial aid counselor, or PFAC as we call it in our office, to have a more in-depth conversation of what is required of you in this application. Now, every student situation is unique. Um, we have some common scenarios that might apply to you that we wanted to go over today. So let's say you're an international student who has had a change in circumstances. Now, as Tony said, typically international students need only to apply their first year. They don't need to reapply for their entire time at Yale. But if there's a change in your circumstances, you can reapply. Step one is to contact our office so that we can open your checklist. Step two is completing your CSS profile and submitting your 2023 tax documentation or your equivalent proof of income, and that all gets uploaded to iDoc. If you don't know if your change in circumstances would qualify for a change in your financial aid, that's an important time to contact our office. Again, you can call, you can email, or you can set up an appointment with your personal financial aid counselor, and you'll never receive less aid. So if you reapply for aid as an international student, it's never going to be the fact where, oh, well, actually, you would be in better circumstances. You'll never receive less aid from Yale. Now, another scenario that we come across is, let's say your parents are divorced or separated. Typically, as Tony might have mentioned, non-custodial parents only need to apply for financial aid one time. They don't need to apply every year for while you're at Yale. But if there's a change in circumstance for the non-custodial parent, they can reapply for aid. Step one, again, is to contact our office so that we can update your checklist and add the needed requirements. That's the checklist on your Yale Hub, not your iDoc, because those are different. Step two is to have the non-custodial parent complete their non-custodial CSS profile and submit the tax documentation and W-2s to iDoc. Again, if you don't know if your non-custodial parents' changes qualify for a change in financial aid, contact our office. Now, if this is a recent change, if this happened in the last year or so, again, contact our office. It might be a good time to set up an appointment with your counselor, kind of talk over what is required going forward. Other scenarios that our office have encountered are things like out of pocket medical costs. Parent suffers a job loss. There's been a change in family support. There's been a death in your family. There's been a natural disaster that's affected your home. Um, these are just examples. If you have a circumstance that you think would quantify you as needing to reapply for aid or having a different situation, contact our office. Your personal financial aid counselors are here to guide you and here to help in any way that we can. So absolutely reach out if you have any questions. Okay, so what if the cost of Yale increases? If your family's financial circumstances remain consistent from year to year, then you should expect that your net cost, which we think of as the parent share and the student share, should also remain consistent. If the cost of attendance at Yale increases, we will increase your grant and scholarship aid to compensate for any increase. Now, this might be helpful to have just written down for your parents, or because this is a question that we get a lot. What is the cost of attendance, or what do we quantify for financial aid? So cost of aid, or cost of attendance rather, is minus the parent share, minus the student share, and that equals the amount of scholarship aid that you would receive from Yale. Let's see. Thank you very much. So we have gone over a lot of information today. Some important things that we wanted to circle back on. International students do not need to apply every year unless you have a change in circumstances. And if so, contact our office. Non-custodial parents do not need to apply for aid every year unless you have a change of circumstances, and then you should contact our office. QuestBridge match scholars only need to submit the FAFSA. The priority deadline for ensuring that you receive your financial aid offer in time for the July 1st fall bill is April 1st. Like Tony said, if you submit past that date, your financial aid will not be affected in any way. You just may receive your financial aid offer a little bit later than would be hopeful. It's important to continue to monitor your financial aid checklist. And again, this is the checklist that's in your Yale Hub, which is different than IDOC. If our office has any other required information that we need from you, we will add it to your Yale Hub checklist. So it's important to continue to monitor that regularly. And if you have any questions about financial aid at all, or reapplying for financial aid, or your circumstances, contact our office. You are welcome to stop by anytime. You're welcome to call, email, or you can set up an appointment on our website and schedule an appointment with your counselor.
All right, great. So I just want to take a moment, hot off the presses. Don't know if anyone saw this morning. Inside Higher Ed actually released a statement. There was an article Inside Higher Ed today. The FAFSA is actually launching ahead of schedule. So I know that we said hopefully at some point in December. They have actually announced that the FAFSA will launch next week. So I believe the date that the Department of Ed has announced is the 22nd of November. So as Taylor indicated, as you're going home, if you're going home for Thanksgiving break or even over winter recess, it's a great time to go ahead and do both the CSS profile and the FAFSA. Or if you don't have to redo a CSS profile, if you're international or if you are a QuestBridge match scholar, for those QuestBridge match scholars, you could just do the FAFSA. But we would highly recommend that you guys get started on those as soon as you can and go ahead and get those submitted. I know that the deadline, the priority filing deadline is not until April 1st. But again, first in, first out. The sooner you get the materials to us, the sooner we can get information back in your hands to give you and or your family the time to plan ahead and to figure out how you're going to meet those needs for the next academic year. I also just want to reiterate the importance of checking your Yale Hub checklist as opposed to the IDOC checklist. Just to give you a little bit of understanding as to why that's so important, the checklist in IDOC is a stagnant checklist. We have standard application materials that are posted for all, for example, all domestic U.S. students. So U.S. citizens who live in the United States, every single student gets the exact same requirements in their IDOC checklist, which is parent tax return, parent W-2, and student non-filer statement or tax return. That is posted for every single US citizen in IDOC. The information is only one way. It comes from the College Board. We don't communicate back to the College Board. We don't go back and say, hey, we reviewed their tax return and actually we need a Schedule 1, a Schedule E, an 1120S, and a Schedule C. Like we don't go back to the College Board and tell them that. We populate that in our system here at Yale, which is what populates Yale Hub. So again, it's so important to keep an eye on your Yale Hub checklist, not necessarily the IDOC checklist, because we never update the IDOC checklist with additional things that we need. We don't have a way to communicate that back to the College Board. Just wanted to share that information and to reiterate, get these documents into us. Please, please, please schedule an appointment with your personal financial aid counselor if you haven't already. You can go to the financial aid website and under Contact Us, there are appointment links for all of the financial aid counselors, and you can schedule an appointment with your counselor. If you don't know who your counselor is, absolutely contact our office and we can put you in touch with your counselor. If you look at your counselor's availability and they don't have availability that meets your needs, please, please, please email us. All of our counselors are more than willing to schedule appointments outside of their standard appointment slots. If those appointment slots, for example, are while you're in class or are while you are doing required weight training with your team, whatever the case may be. It doesn't work for your schedule, let us know, and we'll find some time for you to meet with your personal financial aid counselor. It looks like all of the questions that came into the Q&A have been answered by our lovely colleagues. Thank you, everyone, for answering those questions. Are there any other questions that students want to ask? Are there any questions that you want to feed over to me, financial aid staff, that we need to answer live? Any questions? Nope, looks like one just came in. If we're a dual citizen, are we allowed to reapply for financial aid as an international student? Well, it depends on what countries you are a dual citizen of. If you are a dual citizen of 2 international countries, non-US, then yes, you are an international citizen and do not need to reapply for financial aid every year. If you are a dual citizen and one of the countries is United States, we would encourage you to reapply. You actually have to resubmit the FAFSA each year in order to be considered for federal financial aid, so a federal Pell Grant and or any federal loans. So if one of the countries in which you hold citizenship is the United States, you would need to reapply each year. You'd need to do the FAFSA every year and the CSS profile as well. And then I just got kind of fed a question in the chat about when financial aid information will be available for continuing students. So our plan is that we will start to send financial aid information to continuing students in either late April or very, very early May. Typically what we do is we'll start to review continuing students' financial aid applications in January. Our staff will actually be looking at applications, reaching out to students, asking for more information when needed. We'll start that process in January. And then we have to kind of shift gears. In mid-February, we really look to focus on those students who are being admitted regular decision to Yale. And then throughout the month of March, we'll be really focused on those incoming students that we are admitting and looking to yield and have come to Yale. And then after May 1st, when we've solidified our incoming class of 2029, we can shift gears back to our continuing students and can start to send those financial aid notifications. So as we said before, QuestBridge Match Scholars, they will get their financial aid in that first batch that goes out in late April or early May, as well as continuing international citizens. For everyone else, it's first in, first out. So the sooner we get your application materials, the more likely that you'll get your financial aid offer in early May. And that will give you plenty of time to plan ahead so that you know if you need to sign up for a monthly payment plan, for example, and what that monthly payment plan would need to be. And then if you're not signing up for a payment plan, but your family is making a one-time payment, they'll have some time to budget that and get those funds together in order to make the payment before the payment deadline at the end of July. Seeing a couple more questions come in. Is there a specific threshold or percentage for what is meant by consistent parent and family income? It's not necessarily a threshold. When we talk about consistent, we're not saying that your family contribution will be the same year over year, because we recognize that income is not necessarily the same year over year. And the taxes that your family has to pay, state and local taxes, may not be the same every year. So we're really just looking for consistency. If your family sees a $10, $15, $20,000 increase or decrease in income, then you should expect that you'll see some change in your family share, in your parent share. If you have a sibling who graduates from college, from their undergraduate program, you should expect to see a significant increase in your parent share, because if a sibling graduates, your family is no longer going to get the break that is given by Yale for having multiple children in college, and vice versa. If you have a younger sibling who enters Yale, or enters college rather, whether it be Yale or somewhere else, but enters an undergraduate degree program, you can expect to see your parent share decrease and an increase in financial aid eligibility. So when we talk about consistency, we're just talking about large shifts in family income information or family asset information. All right. Looks like Katie is answering the last couple of questions about Yale Hub and personal financial aid counselor questions. I'll just answer this last question. Do we have to make an appointment with your personal financial aid counselor if you have questions? You don't have to. No, you don't have to make an appointment. We encourage you to make an appointment. This is your contact person. Your personal financial aid counselor is your contact person in our office. And we want you to build that relationship if that's something that you want to do. If you have a general question about an application requirement or a deadline or how to access a form, you can absolutely email our office and ask that question. But you can also you can email your personal financial aid counselor, or you can make an appointment with your personal financial aid counselor to really kind of continue to build and solidify that relationship with your counselor. And then again, the Yale checklist, the checklist in Yale Hub will open sometime in January. We actually don't have the functional ability to open it until after January 1st. So we will work with our colleagues in IT and the University Financial Aid Office to get that up as soon as we can. Our hope would be to have it up by mid-January, but we have to coordinate with our colleagues around the university to get that up and running. So again, at some point in January, but our hope is by mid-January. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. If there aren't any more frequently asked questions, we can go ahead and close out this presentation. Again, this will be posted to our website probably in the next week. If you want to share that link with your family, if you want to share it with parents or a sibling or a guardian or someone else who is helping you through this process, we would encourage you to take a look at the Yale Financial Aid website. And on the Undergraduate Financial Aid website, there is a link on the right-hand side that is forms and publications and presentations. And this will be posted alongside all of our other Fridays with Financial Aid sessions. And you can forward that link to anyone that you need to forward it to who can help you through this process. Again, thank you so much for taking your time out today and joining us. We hope to continue having conversations with all of you. I hope that you all, if you need it, schedule an appointment with your personal financial aid counselor. Hope to see you around campus. And thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day, everyone.